Seeking life-changing knowledge? You've stepped into the right place. Welcome to Bold Perspectives with Samantha Postman. In every episode, discover, explore, and grow your personal or professional self with real and relevant knowledge to help you improve your own life and make a positive impact in the world around you. Tune in for honest insights, life advice, inspirational wisdom, and the occasional salty rants. Because you are meant to live a better and bolder life.
This episode is part 3 of the series. And if you're just joining us now, I hope you catch us for the other series. It's pretty great. I don't think you're going to want to miss out. I guess what I wanted to know is why you aren't doing a podcast and you've decided to work on an app instead.
Yeah. It is opportunity cost of time, right? Like I have a full-time job as a software engineer. Someone needs to build this app. My co-founder has spent an entire year running his own podcast, producing episodes, editing, doing the whole shebang. And he didn't hire a company. Like he recorded and edited and all of this stuff handled himself. Mm-hmm. And so he knows how much work it is. And he's putting his podcast on hold too, to prioritize this project. Mm-hmm. So I have my creative outlets in a lot of other forms. I think mine specifically is writing. I've been writing since I was like 14, like long form blog posts about my deepest thoughts about the world. So in a certain sense, I don't want to say it's easy for me because I'm always getting better at it, but it comes quite naturally at this point. Whereas podcasting is something I have to start brand new from scratch.
Right.
And I don't know that it would necessarily be, to use your point, like the highest ROI, like the next hour that I spend, if I write code or if I write a blog post, whatever I produce will probably be more valuable than if I tried to go make a podcast myself. But I think that's a very fair question, right? Like the people who are most well equipped to solve a problem are the ones who understand it. But I think through my co-founder and through conversations like this one, I think I can get a pretty good understanding of the problem.
Yeah, you definitely are equipped for the problem. It's just that like it fascinates me what people choose to spend their time on. Like this isn't your main bread and butter. So then why would you spend your extra time on this? Like it just gets my curiosity going. I'm just like, okay, what is it about her that she's like, I want to spend my time doing this? Is it like, do you want to help grow people so that they can kind of step into their skin? Or like, what is it that's like, I just like, there's a grab, something's grabbing you into it. And so I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what's the grab? What's the satisfaction for you?
Yeah. I think I personally get a lot of value out of podcasts. I personally get a lot of value out of sharing an episode with people, connecting over some idea that we've had. Like, I think podcasts literally change lives. There was just one super famous podcaster. I don't know if you've heard of him, named Naval Ravikant.
Okay.
And he's got this one super famous episode, a bunch of people have heard of it, where he talks about realizing that if you are always working for a paycheck, if you're always working for a salary, you'll never really own your time, if that makes sense. And there are people who get really rich, just like doctors or lawyers who get paid very high hourly rates, but at the end of the day, they are still someone else's like hourly slave wage. They're just like very well compensated. They're comfortable. They've got a nice house, but their time isn't truly theirs. And it was like this whole paradigm shift in the way that I started thinking about how to spend my time. And it's the reason, for example, that I turned down a very high paying job at a very prestigious VC firm to focus on this project. Because again, like, it's something really of value if you don't sacrifice something for it. I need to put my money where my mouth is. I want to ultimately own my time. And I think that means that I have to make sacrifices right now in terms of the career that I could be building, the jobs that I could be having, because I do really want to have creative vision over something that produces value for the world. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What I hear you saying is this is my creative expression of who I am, and I want to invest in that. So you're investing in your creative expression, and this is how you know how to do it.
Yeah.
And so I love that. It's a really beautiful, it's like you've acknowledged something beautiful in yourself, and you're like, I want to invest in that thing in me. Like, that beauty in me. And I'm willing to give up other opportunities because that beauty inside of me is important to invest in. So, and grow it, because like, sometimes I think of people like flowers, and not just because you're a female, but I like photographing flowers. It's very therapeutic for me, but it's just like you see a flower, and then when they bloom, you know, they need the right amount of sun, they need the right amount of fertilizer and everything else. And so I love to see people bloom. And when I hear you talking about it, it's almost like I could see your inner self kind of go like this. And it's like, you want to like just go all the way out. And so that's what I could see when you're talking about it.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. I do really love working on this project. And it's not just because Tom and I get along really well, though I think we do, but because it leads to conversations like this, for example. Like at my normal day job, I would not be going and hunting strangers down on Twitter to chat with them about their podcast. It's just not in the scope of things that can happen, right? So it's to me, it almost just feels like a more authentic way to live. And I'm basically going to have to do the other stuff in terms of paying rent and keeping myself going and all of that until Tom and I can get this machine running enough that it can sustain itself.
Yeah.
But this feels like real work, and the rest is, you know, like you got to pay the rent and you got to do what you got to do. Right.
Well, definitely just talking to you, you have the potential to take this really far. What you do matters. And a lot of people have trouble with the math. I mean, podcast doesn't do all the work for me, but they're doing some of the work for me. But if you can find a way to, I mean, there's so many good voices out there. Like I'm going to go back to the flower analogy. There's a lot of unbloomed flowers out there, or budding, or they're sitting in the ground and they're like a bulb sitting in there. And they just need someone like you to come along and then just help them with the water or just some sun so that they can just like come out and shine and bloom for everybody. And we all have to find a way to do that. And if you have to do all the things yourself, you're just never going to. Like a flower can't water themselves. A flower can't fertilize himself. You know, a flower can't give itself its own sun. But if we can find other sources to help with that, then they can bloom. And that you're one of them. You're somebody's water. So, and water gives life, right? So if you can give a podcast a life, wow, like, dang, can help a lot of people bloom.
I really like the way you're putting that. And if I can tweak the analogy a little bit, I don't think it's quite that we're the water, but that like we're digging the trenches in the earth such that all of these separate rivers, which never would have touched each other before, like end up crossing. Because I think about, I've talked to a lot of folks in Ship 30, and one theme that I hear over and over again is that they wish they could find other people who are interested in what they're interested in, because that's what really drives them, right? Like I think it's awesome that you have these super big ambitions to be like massive, like Tim Ferriss level podcaster, and like Elon's gonna DM you and like do it, you know, get there.
Oh, I don't know. I was being a little cheeky there.
No, but I love it. You got to dream that big, right? But I think for a lot of people, they podcast because they love something so much and they just want to talk to other people who also love it. And life is so haphazard and random that like, what are the chances, especially if you live in like a small town somewhere, that you're going to encounter someone else who loves like, you know, bass fishing like as much as you do and cares about all the same things. But there's definitely someone else in the world who does. And technology has made it possible for those connections to happen. And we just think it's weird that like there's so many tools focused on like analytics and advertising and download numbers. And we think there's a lot to be done in the space of connecting podcast creators. So that's my own personal sort of take on the matter.
Really, you're being a hype theory or for Twitter, right? So because people go on hype theory, but the power of it is when you can tap into the analytical part of it, right? So if you can help people's voice be directed in the right place, in the proper places where they're going to be heard well, that's really important work. Like that's really important work. So I think it's just it's so simple.
It's like, sorry, I would like, we just want to take content that someone has made and they put love and like tears into making this thing, and there's someone who's going to love it. Like that person exists. There's so many people, there's so many like diversities of thoughts and experiences. There's going to be someone out there who wants to hear it. And it's just so hard for those two things to come together right now. That's the problem we want to solve. And it's a hard problem to solve, but like, we think it's worth doing.
So what do you think so if anyone's listening to this, what would you want them to do? Like, would you want them to reach out to you in any way? Like, I want to see you do well with this because I think it matters. And I just think you're so freaking awesome. Like, who wouldn't want to invest in that? So like, are you looking for people to invest in you, like in your project as well, financially, or are you just looking for people to sign up on your website? Which will be in the content that they can find on this podcast, to go on your website and then sign up for a beta testing, or what do you want people to do? Ask away. I'm giving you permission to say, so here's it. Like, what does great success look for you?
Yeah. I love this question. Thank you so much. So I have 3 very, very concrete things. Investing. Sure, maybe. There's actually a cost that comes to taking VC funding because the thing's not yours anymore. There's another party that's invested now.
Right.
That said, like, would Tom and I love to be able to quit our day jobs and work on this without worrying about the rent? Absolutely. So if there's someone out there who's actually shaken by this and they want to put some money behind it, sure, we'd love to hear from them. But I think more importantly, what we want is a base of users who will tell us what their pain points are and the tools they wish they had. So if there's someone out there, like if you have a podcast and you've ever thought to yourself, gosh, like I wish I had a tool that would just do X. I wish I could just know this about my users. Or on the other hand, you found something that worked incredibly well for getting your podcast in front of other users, but maybe you have to work really hard to set it up. Cross promotions right now are a great example. Like, they're so manual. You have to find a person, you have to chase them down on LinkedIn, you have to email them, you have to like call them up, you have to like butter them up and try to get them to work with you. If you've found things that work particularly well for that, that's something we'd like to know about. And then the third piece is probably, like if you're thinking of starting a podcast or you currently have one, sign up for our offering. We've got an MVP. We'll be opening it up very soon. And it's full of flaws. It's a first version. It's going to have bugs. It's going to crash. But if you're willing to get in there and take a look at it, try it and give us feedback, that would mean the world to us. So those are the 3 things.
Sweet. Do you have like a type form or anything where people could fill out those questions for you? Have you thought about doing that, where you like ask those 3 questions and get people to like just submit their comments to you?
As in how they can give us feedback?
Yeah, you said, we want to know, what are your pain points? What is it that you're looking for? Like, or something you want us to know about? Have you thought about doing like a type form entry for people to be able to do that on their own?
I was going to say we have a beta sign up on the website, but that's just an email. You're right. We should stand that up.
It would probably streamline some things for you too, for conversations, because like right now when you're just starting up, it's easy to have a 2-hour call with somebody, but then you can kind of go through there, but it gives people an opportunity to speak without like in their time frame. So if they've got 15 minutes and they really want to tell you something or be part of your project so they can help you grow in the right direction, then they can do it without having to book time in. They can just respond. So how can they tell you all this in a way that's efficient for their time as well?
Yeah, that's a really good point. Thank you.
I would suggest potentially that they could, I don't think you can do this in a type form, but it'd be nice if they could even submit an audio if they're speakers. Like, answer this question in under 2 minutes, give me an answer, 3 minutes. And that might even get more responses. Because you're talking to, you're appealing to speakers, not writers.
Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. Podcasters, right? Let me figure out, or I'll take your suggestion for the best way to allow people to submit that. I mean, we could just stand up an open email. Or literally like just email me, like Casey@poddinglabs.com. Like my email's on all the support things anyway. Like anything that goes wrong with the site, it's like directly to my email. So
those questions that you asked me, I'll put them in my content on my website. So if people come across this conversation, then those 3 questions can be there. So if you send me those 3 questions, then I'll put them in there. Or whatever it is that you want to ask them, and then they can send them to you. So you can, and if before now in the launch, when this gets launched, you think of anything else, just let me know and we can just put a little bit like contact you, or even if it sends you to a landing page with those questions on it. So they might not even be on my site, but they're on yours. You can set up a separate landing page for it maybe. That way,
Okay.
then actually the cool thing about that is then you could change the questions, because once you put it on my website, it stays on there, right? Whereas if it gets forwarded to a page on yours, you could change the questions anytime you want. So if you want to adjust them slightly, that gives you an opportunity to rephrase them if you're finding that they need to be rephrased.
Okay, that's a great idea. Let me talk to Tom about standing something up for this, and then I'll send you the link and you can include it.
We have some time. It'll be a little bit before this gets released.
Okay.
But oh my gosh, I feel like I could talk to you forever, but I'm definitely fading, which you are too. I can tell we're not as all chipper as we were at the beginning.
Yeah. No, but
and all the lights and all the like.
I just want to say, and this is just me speaking like genuinely, I don't, this can make it into the podcast or not, is I think you're quite different from me in many ways. But at the same time, I've learned so much in this conversation just listening to you speak. And I mean, I can list the ways, but it's almost not the point. Like, I'm not a religious person. I don't live in, like, I don't have a farm in Alberta. I'm not a mother. I don't have kids. And like living in Toronto, especially around the people that I'm around, it can get to be a bit of an echo chamber. Like, just sort of imagine like generic Toronto yuppie, like tech worker. And this has just been super eye-opening for me. And I like, this conversation would never have happened if not for Ship 30, just because there wouldn't be someone like you, like walking down the street that I would just start talking to.
I'd probably talk to you, to be honest. I go to coffee shops and I just start chatting up with people, and just like 2 hours later we're still sitting in a coffee shop and we're complete strangers.
No, I love it, but what I mean is like, what is the probability that I can go out on the street right now and there's somebody from Lethbridge who has a farm? It's just like almost zero, right? So this like I'm gonna go talk to my boyfriend about this afterwards. Like, this has been very cool.
I'd love to know.
Not at all. Yeah.
Well, I'd just love to know, like, what's one thing or something that you were just like, dang, that hit me. Like, I need to think a lot more about that, or just like really grabbed you. I always find that really fun to talk to somebody and hear. Like, I was in the Rome Research Book Club right before this, and totally made friends with somebody who teaches in Poland. And next thing you know, I'm teaching his high school class in Poland about farming. Like, who gets to do that, by the way? I'm like pulling out little samples of canola and explaining how it works. And anyway, the most fun thing was at the end is I asked all the students, like, what did you like the most? Like, what did you learn the most, or just grabbed you? And it was just so fascinating to hear what little story or what little thing just grabbed them. So that's the kind of feedback I like. It's like, what connected with you and why?
So I don't have some specific thing or like gimmick that grabbed me, but I do have a really meaningful answer to this question, which is, I think and feel very, very deeply. And when someone describes like the pain of a previous experience that they've been through, and I don't like my parents weren't like super rich, but like I wouldn't say I grew up on the wrong side of the tracks. Like, I came here, my parents were immigrants, like we didn't have that much money, but they worked their way up. Eventually they bought a house, like, like all things considered, pretty well. I don't have a sister that struggled with drug addiction. Like, I have my own mental health, whatever, just like everyone does. But to hear you describe sort of all the things that you've experienced, and I could see when you were describing like your childhood and like other girls at the school, and I think you got a little emotional, and I think I saw that. I empathize with all of those things, and there's a part of my brain that goes into like imagining what the pain of that would be like. And contrasting that to literally the person that you are today, like, you're so full of energy. You suggested this incredibly creative idea to, like, everyone else just answered my questions, which I super appreciated, but you came up with this super creative thing that turned into like something else entirely. All the experiences you've had with your kids, it's like, I admire that so much. Because not everyone goes that way. Like, so many people, and I don't even blame them for it, because the world's a hard place to live in. So many people end up bitter, or they end up being hurt, and they're like thrashing around in their own hurt, and they don't have any room in their hearts for other people. And I don't blame them for that. But I don't know what it is that gives people or you specifically the strength to do that, but like I admire that so much.
Thank you. That's really sweet. Thank you.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is either, but when you were talking about that, you're like, people are this and that. I'm like, I just want to go over and hug them and say it's going to be okay. Yeah. And then like, just help them with their first steps. I think it's important to be in actually, sometimes people won't let other people help them. That's a huge deal. Like it's a pride thing. It's a huge pride thing. Yeah. So I don't know that I had a lot of help, but I have helped a lot of people. I call it the first paragraph. I even have a little thing for it. You know, when you're writing a paper, the hardest part is writing the first paragraph. And once you write it, it's so much faster. So like, I don't even remember I had a master's paper and we went camping for the weekend and we came back and my brain was, you know, on vacation. I came back and went, oh my gosh, I have a paper due tonight. And I looked and I had done the first paragraph just before we left. I totally forgot I had done the first paragraph. And I was like, phew. And I was like, you know, I could go. And the hard part was over. So I think if we can help, you know, just call us to each other. Well, one, be that for other people, you know, even if we're hurting, try to help somebody with their first paragraph. Like what's your thesis? Who are you? Or who are you right now? And like, let's figure out where you go next. What's the next paragraph going to look like for you? And then also if someone comes along into your life and says, hey, I don't mind helping you figure out your first paragraph for a bit. Like, let them in. That's the difference between people who are going to thrive and the people who aren't. When you're just like, nope, I don't need it. I can handle it. Or I'm just hurting or whatever. You don't really understand me. I hear that a lot. You don't really understand. You know, they've got all these excuses, but you need to let people in and try. And some people are not good to let in, but don't be, if someone is helping you, just a little, like people who are listening to this, don't be like, I don't know if it's Molly, like I get claustrophobic when I help people and then, you know, they're just like constantly asking for help more and more and more. Right. I'm more of a like first paragraph person. So I'll help you with your I'll give you tools. I'll get you going. I'll send you in the direction and you can come back for support here and there, but I'm definitely not going to keep holding your hand for the next, you know, 5 years until you get out of this. So yeah, I think that's the difference. So if anyone's out there and they feel really stuck and they're like, how the heck do I do what Samantha did? A lot of it's attitude. Like, it's funny because I got asked to be on the theological panel for young adults a while ago. And what they wanted to know is, why does God allow suffering? Like, that was the topic of the night. Great question, right? First of all, I'm like, everybody's been wrestling this from the beginning of time. So we're not going to answer this in an hour. That's to your satisfaction. So we'll have a discussion, but you will not be fully satisfied, just so you know. But what I said to them was, you know, we're like, how did I say it? We're all surprised when life doesn't go the way we want it to. I think just stop being surprised. Like, honestly, I mean, life is going to be tough. That's how life is. And it's just an attitude. It's like, I see things as hurdles, not as roadblocks. Because a hurdle you can jump over, you can go under, you can go around. But if you see a wall, you might not get through a wall. So everything that's in front of you is a hurdle. It's a hurdle. And some of them are, if you're short, you're going to have to work a little hard to get over that hurdle. But like, you can see through a hurdle. You can't see through a wall. Yeah. And so when you see a wall, you're going to go nowhere. You're going to hit the wall and you're like, I can't see past this. You're going to and then you put all the walls around you. Well, of course you can't see past your pain. You can't see past anything. But if you put hurdles around yourself, you can see where you want to go. You can see the great stuff and you will get there. Just give yourself some time. But accept help. That's really important to accept help when people offer it. That's really important. So I probably went off on a little bit of a tangent, but like, with young adults a lot, I'm always like, sometimes I offer to help, but they're just not ready to hear it. Then I have to wait until they're ready, then come back. And also, if you have a low EQ, an emotional quotient, nobody's going to invest into you. So if you find that you're just going through trouble after trouble after trouble, you probably need to read about emotional quotient. You're probably really defensive. You're probably a know-it-all. You're really stubborn. So those are all things. Emotional quotient actually is really high for success rate. So yeah. Well, so anyway, thanks for saying that. So, and they'll probably, both of us, our brains will go crazy for a while. It was so great to get to know you a little bit. And I could tell just by your responses that you were a person of intellect. And I love the way you responded. I was like, hey, okay, I'll answer these questions. You want to do them in a podcast? And you're like, hey, that's sweet. That's a creative. And I just love how you had the energy coming back. Like this wouldn't have been it if you weren't responding with equal energy. Yeah. So you have this amazing energy about you. And I definitely could even pick it up just in the communication that we had before this. So
I'm so glad. I mean, I'd say you brought more than half, at least half, more than half the energy as well. So it was a good back and forth.
Great. All right. Well, let me know if we can connect again about something else, or if you want to hear anything else, let me know and we'll be in contact. So thank you, Casey. That was an amazing show today. Oh my gosh. We talked about everything under the sun. We talked about life, relationships, personal, professional life dreams. And especially we talked about your really cool initiative with pottinglabs.com, and super excited to see where that goes for you. I think it's really cool that you want to help podcasters do a really great job at meeting their audience, using analytics and just giving them the tools they need to thrive, so that they can really rock what they want to do. Because obviously they have a lot that they have to offer to the world. So I want to thank you so much for everything that you brought today, the energy. You have this beautiful energy about you. And I'm like so honored and privileged that if this is the only time I get to speak in the universe, I want to tell you that you really, really, really made my day. And I feel privileged to have gotten got to walk with you for a little while in your life. So, and look out, world, because this girl is like gonna rock the world. She's got so much to offer. And oh my gosh, I just wish you the best. And so thank you for letting me go off on tangents today, and just for everything you brought to the game, and for being so darn organized. Oh my gosh, this girl's super organized.
I am so glad that you didn't just respond to my Slack message and that you suggested that we do this, because this turned out to be way more than I bargained for, but it was so rewarding. And this will not be the last time we speak, I promise.
Oh,
thank you, Sam.
Okay, thank you so much. All right. So everyone, you just finished listening to another podcast show called Bold Perspectives. And I hope you'll join us on the next show, because you know what? Who knows what we're going to talk about, but I'm pretty sure you're going to love to hear about it. So until next time, I'm Samantha Postman with Bold Perspectives. And that's it for this part of the series. If you feel like you missed out and you're joining the conversation partway through, I definitely recommend that you jump over to the previous conversation with Casey, and I look forward to see you in the next one.
Thanks for listening to Bold Perspectives with Samantha Postman. We'd love to hear which insights added value to your life or the lives of others. To help support the podcast, please share the love on social media, leave a rating or a review. If you don't want to miss out on exclusive content, sign up for her personal email letters. Check out Samantha's website at samanthapostman.com. Follow her on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, or Instagram. Thanks for your amazing support. We'll see you again. And remember, you are meant to live a better and bolder life.